Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horek. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. I'm also going to be at the Business Rocks Tech, Music, and Investment Summit recording shows live in Manchester, England, April 21st and 22nd, where Steve Wozniak is headlining. More information about the summit is on the show website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Michelle Mocalis, Social Media Marketing Coordinator at Oasis Technology, Inc. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm excited. You're working at kind of a company that's been around for a very long time, and so I'm kind of curious to cover the company history, but maybe before we kind of get into Oasis Technology, let's get to know you a little bit better and maybe cover your background a little bit and maybe start with where you grew up.
Yes, sure. I grew up in Simi Valley, California, pretty much my whole life. I was born in 1992, so I'm 23 years old, and it's a really nice place to be. I went to Cal Lutheran University, which is in Thousand Oaks.
Okay.
And I got my business degree and emphasized in both international business and marketing. And then after that, I went sort of straight into looking into the job market, and then I found Oasis.
Okay, so right coming out of school, you basically went right to Oasis?
Really right to Oasis. I mean, I was kind of looking here and there for things.
Sure.
Until I sort of, settled on a position, and I managed to find it here.
Sure. You're one of the few people in California that were actually born in California.
Yeah, I am a California native. My grandpa, he, I think, lived in a couple of other states, but eventually his family settled down in California, and so that's how it kind of started. But my mom is actually from Europe,
okay.
And she was actually born there as well. So it's very interesting and kind of good that I was able to be here in the nice Golden State. But it's also nice going over to where she used to live in Switzerland and see that area as well. And it's nice kind of having both citizenships from there, because I guess the rules are is if your mom is born there, then you're automatically a citizen.
Oh, nice.
So
I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's very interesting. I really like having that aspect sort of part of my life, because it has been very enjoyable and very rewarding, but on the one hand, I couldn't probably live anywhere else besides California, having seen
Sure.
a lot of places. So
Sure. No, I love California, so I totally get that. So do you spend part of the year in Switzerland, or you just kind of go visit when you can?
I kind of try going to visit when I can. My grandma still lives there,
Sure.
so we try once, maybe every 2 years at least. But just kind of depending. At least right now, I kind of want to work a little bit more and sort of save up a little bit on vacation time. So
Sure.
that's why I'm holding off on that for now.
Sure, that makes sense. So I'm kind of curious, how did you kind of get into tech and kind of business, growing up? Were you kind of interested in it, or was there something that kind of inspired you to take what you took in kind of university?
Yes. I've always been kind of the more creative person.
Okay.
I've always really enjoyed like art and kind of just everything that is on the more creative side. I've always lingered more towards.
Okay.
And I think I like the creative side of entrepreneurship and things like that. So I think that's what really did spark my interest initially in business, and in particular towards the more marketing side of it, and hence why I decided to pursue that as a career option.
Sure.
As far as tech is concerned, I mean, I am fairly new, and I am by no means an expert in it, but I find what it provides to be really enjoyable, and I've always liked the idea of sort of being a bridge between the customer and the company.
Interesting.
So I think marketing really allows me to really explore that avenue, and really kind of sort of think outside the box and still kind of consider too, like, what's sort of important for people to know, and what are the reasonings behind why they would want to know it, and things like that. So those are kind of the reasons, at least to me, more specifically, why I sort of enjoy business and marketing in particular. But I also like what technology provides, and I think that the future really is within, I think, a lot of what this industry does, considering that pretty much every business has some form of technology that they're utilizing in order for the business to sort of run efficiently. So it's a really big world out there, and I thought it would be interesting to sort of explore that avenue too. So it was a nice opportunity. So.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe let's get into kind of Oasis technology and kind of what is it, and maybe if you want to give a little bit of background on the company, just because it's been around for so long.
Yes, sure. It was initially started in 1979.
Sure, that's awesome.
And and our current CEO still technically is the CEO, and he and his business partner sort of, I think, started within the realms of software.
Right.
And then later on, they decided to pursue more of the IT services and support arena.
Okay.
And that, I think, was something that I think allowed their business to really grow, because a lot of companies are really starting to sort of rely on to making sure everything is good within their computer networks, and trying to at least make sure that they're able to serve their customers when they can. And so we really are that side that really is supporting them and helping educate them, as well as, provide them the tools and whatever they need so that, everything's up and running for them.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of curious to know, like you mentioned, you guys are kind of doing in the security space and whatnot. I know like it's becoming more and more apparent to a lot of people, and especially as things kind of move to the cloud and whatnot. I'm just kind of curious to know what your take is on like why security is important.
Yes, sure. And I can sort of tell you this through the perspective also through the company, because
Sure.
The way in which we sort of got, I guess, a little bit more into figuring out security is the company was actually hacked by, we believe, the Chinese.
Okay. What year was this roughly? Do you know?
I am not entirely sure, but I think it was in like the probably later 2000s, early 2010s, so like around there. And what ended up happening is they discovered that apparently it was that they were probably mistaken for a much larger organization that had a similar name to Oasis Technology.
Okay, interesting.
And so it was so severe, though, that they had to try to find something on the market to fix it, because it was affecting them pretty heavily. But they couldn't find anything that really worked.
Okay, interesting.
And they thought to themselves, well, why not we try to invent something for ourselves to protect us?
Sure.
And so they ended up inventing the Titan intrusion prevention system, which is kind of our main product for, in particular, cybersecurity. And ever since they managed to invent it and get it out to their customers, there haven't been any issues, and they've really managed to find something that really worked. And so it's pretty fascinating, because it just shows you how level of importance something can be, and how that ends up translating into creating something that maybe wasn't even initially there before. And I think with cybersecurity, it's very difficult because, again, it is a very technical space, like all of technology. And I think it's very difficult, in particular, if you're a business owner who, again, is not really familiar with technology, or, you use technology, but you use it in order to really run your business. You're not a tech-based firm. So I can see where there's a lot of confusion, and then there's also a lot of different information that various people might give as far as cybersecurity is concerned. And I think there ends up being kind of a lot of confusion, and hence sometimes those things don't end up ultimately translating, even within the tech space in the market. So that's why I think they sort of decided to sort of take the route of, really pushing forward something that really wasn't there before. So that's, I think, something that's also very important to sort of know when it comes to cybersecurity, is that it has this really big impact, and much larger than people can really imagine, because a lot of what we do nowadays is through technology, through computers, through whatever means to which we can communicate with one another is through this medium, and it needs to be maintained. Otherwise, otherwise you don't really have anything to work off of. So that's why I think it is so important, even if you don't really understand it.
Sure.
And again, even I don't understand it 100% as far as technicalities are concerned. So
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I think the thing is, too, is it's something you need to really have in place, and you just hope that nothing ever happens, right? And it's becoming more and more, you read about it all the time, that, so-and-so got hacked, and there's been over the last, year, there's been some pretty big, famous, well-known companies that have gotten hacked, or banks, or, big corporations. And so even as like a smaller company, and even in your example, is if you even get mistaken for a bigger company, you never know, right? Because sometimes the people that actually hack you are on the other side of the world, or whatnot, and they don't really know how big you are or aren't, right? And in your case, it sounds like it was a little bit of mistaken identity, but you need to be prepared for this stuff, right?
Yeah, that's exactly true. That's right on the money. And also, the thing is, too, is that in particular, hackers, at least the black hat hackers, the ones who are trying to do this primarily for monetary purposes, they don't really necessarily care too much about who you are.
Sure. They
care so much as to what's vulnerable, what's out there where I can get into. Because at the end of the day, it adds up for them. Because, I just was able to get into 100 companies, and I made just as much as if I would have tried to get into one maybe bigger organization. So at the end of the day, it's more so about, getting as many of the market as you can. And there's a really sort of growing, more black market now for really hacking, because sometimes even the good side of hackers, doesn't pay as much. And so sometimes people are more motivated to get money, unfortunately, in the wrong way. And so that's also something that's very important to note. And also, it's important to know that a lot of government is involved with hacking, in particular with the Chinese. There's a lot of state actors that are involved. And this goes into other areas of espionage and, not only just stealing for money, but also stealing for information, because if they could get access to documents on how a product was invented, they can kind of, just take that and recreate that product. This was one topic that was actually discussed more in-depthly on 60 Minutes. I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I did post a story on it, and it's really amazing as to how vast this whole hacking scene is. I mean, it's really widespread, and the thing that's sort of even scarier too is now that we're sort of introducing the Internet of Things, so you have things that are now connected to the Internet, and companies are. It said in an article recently that I managed to find that by 2020, over half of companies will be utilizing this Internet of Things.
Yep.
And that's also leading to another can of worms.
Sure.
Because now you've got to worry about all of the other things that you have within your organization that are somehow connected to the Internet, and whether or not those things can be penetrated by somebody unknowingly. And a lot of the time too is you could be hacked and you don't even know it, and
Totally.
they can kind of come in and out, and they can do a lot of things that you won't really know about, and you may not even be aware of, because it's all done through a computer.
Sure.
So it's really interesting, and it goes in as a technology grows. It's going to have more and more of an impact and more of an incentive onto people.
Sure.
To sort of kind of take part in trying to either stop it or kind of facilitate more breaches.
Sure, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show, because there's been a couple examples. My wife and I have about a 1.5-year-old girl now, and I always wanted the baby monitor that was connected to the internet. So if I was traveling or even just out for the night, you could just log in and check in on her or whatever if there was a babysitter or whatnot. But those were getting hacked, and so people were watching people's kids through baby monitor or what else. And so I bought one that didn't have Wi-Fi connection. Or if you think, even people buy their doors get unlocked with their smartphone. I would love that, but I understand that those can get hacked, right? And so the fact that I'm in the industry, it kind of freaks me out a little bit, because I don't. I kind of know this, right? And the other thing too is I'm assuming you've heard of the Wi-Fi Pineapple, the little wireless router. They start about $100. Have you heard of those?
Huh. I don't believe I've heard of those specifically.
So this is another really good example. I used to work with a guy that had one, and he's in the security thing. So obviously he just bought it, and he doesn't really do any kind of evil things with it. But he gave me a demo of it one day, and it was actually quite interesting, because basically what you can do, and you can buy them where they have battery packs. So the example is you can go to, say, the mall or Starbucks or somewhere that has an open Wi-Fi connection that people can connect to for free. You name this Wi-Fi Pineapple the exact same name as a Wi-Fi network. And so people are going to automatically connect to it because they've been to the mall or the Starbucks before, or they're going to just connect because it's this open thing. And then anything that they do through that router, you can watch. So basically you can get all their passwords to all their social media and anything else that they do on their thing. And that's why you'll hear a lot of people talk about you should never do any banking or anything that really personal on kind of free open Wi-Fi networks, because you have no idea who's watching these things, right? And you think these little routers that are portable, or the other example is you could literally take this thing, and there's battery packs could last for days, what if you stuck it on the side of a competitor's building and you named it the same as their Wi-Fi network, right? You can somebody's device will eventually connect to that, And, you could start tracking their whole data. And I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to get people to think about this stuff, right? Because even if you name the network the same and you just make it unlocked, a device will connect to that at some point. Smartphones and tablets, the whole idea of like auto-connecting to the internet all the time is what we want, and it's fascinating. And I think, kind of thinking about this, and especially as a business owner, like, you need to really set yourself up, and kind of know what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, too, is it's sort of changing, too, every day, as far as to what new vulnerabilities are out there, what kind of ransomware or malware that's out there, too. So it's a constant involvement, considering the fact that, again, it is technology, even though it is malicious technology, it's technology nonetheless, that's sort of impacting everything. And, I think the important thing, too, is just as long as I think there's a certain amount of self-awareness,
sure,
then it really does allow you to take those steps to better protect yourself. Because there is no one solution to really cybersecurity. It's
totally.
More of taking all these different precautions and putting them all together and saying, oh, okay, I have a certain level or sense or understanding of security. And once you just have sort of a basic understanding, then, and sort of, kind of talk to people who can sort of help you understand it, then it's also something that's very helpful and we'll make it not as scary.
Sure, no, totally.
As it is, yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to know, what kind of precautions do you kind of recommend to people?
There's multiple that we recommend, from changing your passwords every now and again to updating your antivirus software, checking your network, like doing various scans. We actually offer this to our customers, where you can do a sort of vulnerability analysis, and it will tell you exactly how many vulnerabilities there are, how critical they are, and what we do sort of with our product too is once the product is installed into the customer, we check again to see if there are still any vulnerabilities that are within the network. And usually when we check, or at least from all that we've checked so far, I mean, there haven't been any vulnerabilities. So having those kinds of updates, at least, is I think important, and to see what kind of technology is out there that can help you, and also educating to your employees about, if it's a email that you do not know about, don't even bother trying to click on anything, because that could cause sometimes malicious software to be put onto the computer, and things like that too are also things that I think it's important for people to know about, because cybersecurity is sort of broken down into two things. It's the technology that you utilize in order to protect yourself, and it's the way you educate yourself on sort of what's out there and what's going on. So those are really the things that we really recommend. We break it down in those two categories. So far our product has really been helpful with that. And again, it's not designed to cover for everything, but it is designed to sort of help and be part of that technological security landscape. And then also we have our education side too, where we tell people, hey, you should do this, or be aware of this and that and whatnot. And there's always something new that comes out, so there's always something new to be aware of too. So that's why we try to keep updating people.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the other thing too is it kind of really depends on the software that you're running as well, right? Like, you should keep your operating system software updated. You should keep your phone software updated, your tablet software updated. Because these companies are pushing fixes all the time, and they're trying to, fill the vulnerabilities and patch them as quick as possible. But, if you don't update your software, well, sometimes, you miss something, right? And I know software company I worked at, we use a content management system called Drupal, and there was a huge Drupal hack, like, I don't know, about last summer-ish or something like that. And if you didn't patch your site within, I think, 48 hours, pretty much your site got hacked. And you basically had to restore from a backup, and it was quite a lot of work. And so, there's just, I just kind of want the listener to kind of think about this stuff, and not that you have to become an expert or get all paranoid that you're going to get hacked right away, but just to kind of think about, there are people out there that are trying these things for fun, for financial gain. In kind of your experience, though, I'm curious to know, I'm sure people are curious to know when you say, like, people do this for money, like, what are the reasons usually behind it? Like, I have my opinions and whatnot, but I'm kind of curious to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. I think it has expanded, obviously, from what sort of the initial reasons behind it. But sure. Obviously, money is still a big factor, but also hacktivism is also a very big thing, too. So I think that's also something that's more on the social side. Like, for example, Ashley Madison,
sure.
When they got breached, the hackers were sort of doing it for a moral reason. They didn't like what the company was doing. And so I think that's also a big motivating factor for a lot of people as well. Also, people who have, maybe a disgruntled employee, former employee, or, someone even from the inside can, try to bring about maybe something unwanted, unfortunately. So there is a lot of there's a lot of things that can be involved. Obviously, espionage, like I've mentioned before, sort of the stealing of information. A lot of that is through the Chinese, and we've had a lot of issues into trying to patching those things up to try to further prevent these kinds of activities. But also terrorism is another thing
sure.
that is also a big motivating factor. There have been a couple of stories that I've read about how ISIS is sort of trying to utilize hacking in some way. And also infrastructure is another scary thing, because if a hacker could get into any form of infrastructure, it could really damage cities or towns or even states. I mean, it's a very scary thought, because that could be done for a variety of reasons, and a lot of part could be motivated by one way or another. But usually the way in which, or what hackers are targeting, is expanded more extensively than it has before. But again, it can all be derived through various reasons. But obviously money is a major factor, but also to create some kind of destruction or terror or spread some awareness to something, hacktivism being a primary one. And not necessarily sometimes hacktivists, they do it for other reasons too. Like, for example, there's this hacking group Anonymous who wants to go after ISIS social media accounts and
sure.
things like that. So there's all these different fronts onto which people are trying to kind of hack each other. And there's also another area of cyber warfare too, and that involves state actors too. So it's really spreading to a lot of different areas. And all those different areas can have a variety of different motivations.
Sure.
So it's pretty extensive. At least right now, it is really extensive, and it's quite alarming.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it's only kind of become more and more prevalent, kind of even good, like you kind of mentioned, like the good side and kind of the bad side. I think it's kind of like anything, right? There's always like, you know, like good things happening. There's kind of bad things happening. I'm curious though, do you watch the show Mr. Robot? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have. All right, I did see the pilot. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to watch the other parts of the show, but I did watch the pilot, and it does paint a very kind of sort of realistic picture of how it sort of really operates within this space, and I think too, unfortunately, sometimes people don't understand it, and so they kind of back off from trying to kind of fix the problem. But you know, the important thing is just to always kind of keep an open mind and kind of just keep engaged on it, and don't try to just shut it off, because it's kind of in the media for a reason.
Sure. No,
you know,
totally.
This is yeah. It's pretty big, and it seems like there's a lot of discussion about the issue of hacking, but then also there seems to be a lack of trying to bring up solutions. And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide at least a solution for people. But at the same time, I think that's an important part of the mindset to have, because it can get discouraging. But at the same time, you know, it's important to kind of not be discouraged and just take action. And you know, it never hurts to try to do something more than not do anything at all. So.
Sure. And you even think like it happens to big companies too that spend, you know, probably millions, if not tens of millions of dollars a year on security. Like they still get hacked. Like everybody, like you mentioned, the Ashley Madison thing. An even bigger one was when Apple's iCloud got hacked last year. Same with like the Sony PlayStation gaming network seems to get hacked every couple of years. Like, you know, it happens to big companies, and it's just going to, I think, happen more and more. And it's just I just kind of want to make people more aware of it, and, you know, kind of get them thinking about it, like you mentioned, and kind of that there are companies out there like you guys, and, you know, that kind of help companies manage this themselves, because in a lot of cases, people don't know they really need it, think that they're not going to be targeted, but it's better to be kind of safe than sorry. It's kind of like insurance, I guess, right? Nobody really likes insurance necessarily or talking about it, but you kind of need to have it in today's kind of society, because it's a real thing. And it's, you know, especially as everything moves more and more to the internet, and more of our life is constantly connected. And like you mentioned earlier, you know, when your fridge and your coffee maker and your baby monitor and all these other things are connected to the internet, it's something to consider. And you need to think like, do I want my door locks to be potentially accessed from the internet? Yes or no? Am I comfortable with that? Am I not comfortable with that? Right? And I think it's just kind of something that people need to decide how comfortable they are with. And it's kind of similar to like what you post to social media, right? Like, for example, some people are fine posting pictures of their kids. Others are like, no, I would never do that. And some post some, not all. Like, it's kind of your comfort level, right? And that's at least been my experience with it.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Also, as well, the thing is too is that there is what's being at least pushed forward now is sort of for companies to purchase some form of cyber insurance. Unfortunately, the premiums are kind of, since again hacking is increasing, the premiums are kind of going up. And unfortunately, recently a story that I managed to find said that a manufacturer who got breached is now suing their cyber insurer because the cyber insurer doesn't want to pay $480,000 for the breach.
Interesting.
So there is, I think, there's going to be, I think, a lot of problems in that arena too. But I think the thing is too is you know, there's always going to be some kind of risk. It's more of like how do you want to minimize those risks, and how do you want to kind of manage everything, because it is a very difficult process, and it's definitely not easy, and not one person can really be responsible for it. It sort of has to be something that everybody sort of takes on to sort of, kind of prevent the chances. And also, what's unfortunately very sad too is that there is now a huge incentive as well for companies to hack other companies. In other words, their competitors.
Sure.
We saw this with I believe it was the Cardinals and the Astros, if I'm not mistaken. I believe one team hacked the other in order to get some kind of information, and apparently once Ashley Madison was breached, I guess it was found that some information indicated that they were trying to also hack their competitors too. So there is it is unfortunate that we're kind of now having to resort to those kinds of tactics, but unfortunately it's being used on all different kinds of levels now. So it's kind of unfortunate in that way, but the important thing is too is just to ask for help and to find solutions. That's the important thing, because even if something does happen to you, there's always going to be, if you look for the right people, there's always going to be the possibility of having those risks like severely minimized and really reduce the impact. So, and again, that's why our companies like us that's what we're here for. So
Sure. No, that's awesome. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think the other thing too that I kind of wanted to stress in this episode is that that sometimes when developers or somebody in kind of IT comes to upper management or whatever and says, we really need to invest in this, sometimes it's kind of just not something that they're interested in even entertaining. And I think like especially nowadays, and like we kind of mentioned, is like you might want to kind of evaluate and say like, how old is our firewall, or just kind of other, how old is your kind of security kind of setup, right? And maybe like reevaluate it over 2016 and say, how are we doing in this space, and and talk to your employees and talk to other kind of consulting companies and whatnot, and see where you're at, and just kind of maybe make it a priority, because the sooner you get into it, the better off you'll be long term, right? Because nobody wants to see anybody get hacked. It's awful. It's happened before. I've worked in this industry for a number of times. I've seen it happen to clients. I've seen it happen to, like a handful of people, right? It happens. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate. It's difficult too, because since technology is changing so rapidly, I think it's also difficult for people to understand that, well, since the technology changes, you kind of have to change, the business technology along with that too. And again, although firewalls are very good at preventing certain things, they don't account for everything. And I think there's sometimes some misconceptions there among people who really know IT and people who really don't know IT, who think, oh, well, why do we need to invest? We already have all of this stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, even if you have this and this stuff, it still needs to be updated, and there's still new technology that's coming out that actually does certain things better and actually closes things when others unfortunately don't do that. So it's very difficult to kind of wrap your head around, because you have to constantly be thinking and reevaluating that kind of space. So, and again, that's why we help customers with that every day. So that's why we're here. So I think it's definitely important to understand that it's as your business changes, so does the technology aspect and the sort of cybersecurity aspect of the business that also needs to change too. So, and unfortunately, that's sometimes that ends up costs money, but at the end of the day, the price that you pay ends up saving you way more than if you were to have to deal with a breach or even multiple breaches. So it's just one of those things where you have to look at the costs and benefits. But at the end of the day, what we offer is actually significantly not as expensive as maybe some other organizations. So I think that's also important to note too, that it's really trying to be a huge part of the market, at least now, and obviously that's going to lead to a lot of expenses. But we do try to make it not as expensive to people. So it just really just depends on who you can sort of reach out to, and who you can get to really help you with it, because it's a very expensive arena. So
Sure. So are your clients kind of mostly in California? Are they kind of all over the globe, or where are they kind of roughly?
Roughly speaking, mostly we have in California.
Okay.
We are trying to sort of launch our partner program,
Okay.
where if an organization wishes to refer a customer to our product, they get a certain percentage, and we're going to try to make this more so on a national level.
Okay.
We can't really technically go international yet because of all of the patenting issues and
Sure.
whatnot, and whether or not we would want our device that far away from I guess the home of the United States or not, just
Sure.
just depending. But that's kind of what we're sort of aiming for, to really get it so that we try to make it so that it's sort of a win-win for everybody. So, and again, you don't even need to really be within the IT space. I mean, if you want to refer somebody, just let us know, and if the customer says yes, then it's a monthly referral sort of that the person receives for that. So we're kind of trying to go into that space so that it allows us to kind of expand more on a national level.
Okay. So basically, like, I pay you guys like a monthly fee basically, and then can you guys monitor it remotely for me?
Yes, that would be correct. We would be able to monitor it for you 24/7. It's basically broken down into like how many IPs a certain computer network has.
Okay.
So just depending on that would really kind of allow us to determine like what box would be needed, and then the pricing for each box that we have is sort of different. But if you become a referrer, then if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I was referred by so-and-so ends up purchasing our product, then we give you sort of a monthly, a little bit of a monthly payment for doing that. So that's kind of what our partner program is sort of designed to be. It's designed to be like a win-win situation for people. So it can be either customers or IT firms or anybody that wishes to recommend us. So
Sure.
that's kind of what we're trying to push for. So.
Okay. No, that's really cool. And just for people that don't know, IP is basically how many devices or computers are connected inside your internal network. That's how you define that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like yeah.
I think it's kind of like the ID of a computer.
Yeah.
Or computers.
Exactly.
Depending, it really does depend though on a case by case basis. But we have like sort of an extensive form that the customer could fill out, and then it'll indicate to us, okay, this is how we have to configure it and whatnot,
Right.
so that it's all done to the specifications of the customer.
Sure. No, that's awesome. But Michelle, we're out of time, so maybe kind of let's close the show with promoting where people can kind of find the company online, and then if you want to promote any personal social media links, you can. It's up to you.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Our website is www.oasistechnology.com, and that's all together. And we also are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Okay.
Our Facebook page is, you just go type in Oasis Technology Incorporated, and we should be the company with the palm tree, the green palm tree. On Twitter, it's at Oasis MSP, and the same logo should show up with the palm tree. And then on LinkedIn, it's the same thing as Facebook. You just type in Oasis Technology Incorporated, and it should be the Oasis logo with the palm tree. And then on YouTube, our channel is titled Oasis Technology, and that's all one word, Oasis, and the O in Oasis and the T in Technology is capitalized.
Perfect.
And yeah, it has all of these different resources where you can. There's a video where we sort of introduce ourselves. There's a video where we talk about how you can install the device, and more information about our referral program and all that kind of stuff that will give you all the information that you need to know, and it's constantly updated every day by me, at least the Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages are.
Perfect, Michelle. Well, thanks again for doing this. I'll post all those links in the show notes so people can just go to the website, buildingthefutureshow.com. And yeah, thanks again for doing this. I look forward to kind of keeping in touch with you over 2016 and see where things go.
That sounds great, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we'll talk soon. Have a good night.
All righty. Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com. Until next time, keep building the future.